Hey everybody, I'm Adam Jackson, back for episode 2. I didn't think I'd get this far, but we got some good feedback on the first one, so we're gonna keep going. Um, Today's topic, gonna hope it keep it short and sweet, is all about investor relations. And then at the end, I'm gonna hit a couple of news items that uh, are in our industry and I get asked about sometimes, and hopefully we'll have some meaningful insight on. But if not, just skip it. Anyway, there's plenty of other podcasts and articles and great pieces of content around raising venture capital as a startup, a tech startup. I'd like to talk about what you do after that, maintaining your relationship and your storytelling and your dialogue with the folks who are, either existing investors in what you're doing or, may become investors later. So, the reason I felt compelled to do this, like, this is a hard topic. It's hard for founders to get right. I've founded 4 venture-backed projects and twice as a CTO and twice as a CEO, and it's hard as an investor to consume some of these updates, especially if they never get sent. So, I have a lot of experience, on both sides of these updates, and I've gotten a lot of good constructive feedback and given some even over the years. And so, trying to just cram it all in here into something that's helpful, hopefully, for investors, maybe to, communicate back to their portfolio, and for founders, to make them a little more effective and, leverage the relationship a little bit better. So, again, my background here, I've raised, I think it's 11 rounds of venture now, over 4 companies, all seed A and B. I'm also an LP in probably about 12 funds that mostly invest in these earlier rounds. And then I've, importantly, I've participated in over 100, 120, 130 something deals, all in these, almost every one is, seed A or B. So mostly seed. So, I want to talk about, first of all, the mindset of the founder obviously is, you want to show traction, you want to, demonstrate that you're making progress, hopefully, and hopefully ask for help and, in a smart and targeted way. If you're an investor, you're obviously, you want to keep up to date with the progress of the company or the project. You want to know where can you be helpful, and these are nuanced things. So let me dive right in here. So first of all, I used to do these quarterly and never really, like, I never got a ton of feedback on it. It kind of was what it was. And but then I recently got some feedback, actually from one of the partners at TQ Ventures in New York. Schuster has really been helpful. He said, you should really do these monthly, and like, if you can, kind of copy paste like what the executive team's talking about, and a couple bullets on the good, couple bullets on what you're working on, that can be improved. But the monthly cadence is really more helpful. But, like, people don't have to read them, right? But and so we've been doing that, and it's been, so far much more helpful than quarterly. The other thing is, like, you should really let your passion and your personality as a founder come through on these. Look, it's why the person invested to begin with. A lot of times is your high conviction, to the mission, to the vision. Remind them at the beginning, like, what your vision and mission are and why you're doing it. And, it might sound silly. It's like, yeah, I mean, but this person might have written a check 2 years ago and they've completely forgotten about what your vision is, and maybe it's changed. So, reminding folks of that up top. And then, this whole topic of making asks, I think it's a great idea to make, like, a general ask, like, hey, join the Braintrust connector program and, refer clients and talent and earn tokens for doing it. I mean, that's gone a long way for us. But you should also think about, targeted asks. Like, when we were first building Braintrust, we needed, clients in lots of different categories. And, one of our great early stage, our co-lead on our Series A, Scott Stanford, Acme Ventures, is really well connected in he's a great marketplace investor, and he's really well connected in the banking, financial, fintech world. And so he brought us, all these great fintech clients, and they're, now great relationships and clients on Braintrust. And those were, it was like he and I sitting down and talking through the value props and getting him comfortable with, putting his brand and reputation on, making a personal introduction to, a senior exec at Goldman Sachs or B of A or what have you. So those targeted asks, like you don't want to blanket blast emails for those. You want to make them, like build a list, make them really targeted to folks, and don't hit them over the head with it, right? Like if they can be helpful and want to be, they will be. But if they do want to be, make it really easy for them, right? Give them something they can forward, that kind of thing, so they're not, putting what you're doing necessarily into their own words. That might work, but like write it for them and they can edit it. Let's see, when you're earlier stage, or say you're pre-product market fit, you should talk about in these updates how you're getting closer to product market fit, or at least what you're trying to do to get closer. I'm an early, seed stage investor in a lot of things that are pre-product market fit right now. And you see these like long updates, pages and pages long, a lot of them kind of like bragging about, how much runway they have, but no mention of how will we ever get to product market fit. And so it's a little frustrating as an investor, because it's like, okay, you're telling us you're in a coma, but that ambulance that has you on life support has like 5 or 6 tanks of gas left in it to, keep you in this endless circle around the parking lot before you die. It's just not, it's not helpful, right? Like it's talk about the experiments you're running. Doing so will actually probably create some like, hey, aha moments for whoever's reading it. Be like, hey, I can reply to this and tell them about this one experiment I ran when I was an executive, or or what some other startup did that's just in the same phase you're at. And so, a lot of these investors have a lot of great experience that, when prompted properly, can be helpful. So, and then finally, like, don't drone on and on about all the people you hired or the team changes, or like, nobody cares about that, unless it's some like amazing C-level you brought in, a new chief operating or chief marketing or whatever. No one cares like how many more engineers you brought on or whatever. It's like, it's just noise. And so, okay, so that's the content piece. Next is the targets, like who should you send these to? There's a lot of different takes on this. Obviously, the existing angel investors, you should always keep them in the loop, even as you get later and later. I know I'm an angel in companies that are series B, C, D, E, and they forget all about us, and why? Because we're not on the board, we don't have voting rights, we're often crushed into common, and so that doesn't mean we don't care. We still wrote the check, we still want to know how you're doing, and we still want to be helpful, even if our percentage ownership is far smaller. So don't cut the angels out when you're bigger. And then like, I think, this is sometimes controversial, but I think, anyone who took time to hear your pitch, and, even if they passed, like, don't take that rejection personally. It wasn't a good fit for them at the time. It doesn't mean it won't be a good fit later. I've had so many investors, I don't know, so many, maybe a dozen investors that passed on one round, and they'll take a look at the next one and maybe come in, or maybe join a syndicate or do some secondary or whatever. But, that rejection is not to be taken personally, unless they like personally insult you. But even then, like, actually send it to them twice then if they personally insulted you, like, let them know you're doing great. Anyway, so, cast a wide net. If someone doesn't want to be included, let them opt out, obviously. But and so that's, the two groups. And then I think, anyone who you might want to be involved later. Later stage people who do secondary, family offices, that kind of thing. Like, you never know when these folks might be interested in what you're doing. You're going to get more and more traction, hopefully, and then all of a sudden be interesting to these people down the road. So it'll be nice that you won't be an unknown person by the time you get to them. And so, the counter argument here would be like, don't give people information about what you're doing, for free. But look, what you're doing is probably out in public anyway. And so if anyone wanted to, they can go learn about what you're doing, right? They just do a little work, or they ask an employee or an existing investor or an ex-employee or something. Like, it's just not, it's not that easy to keep secrets, and usually not worth it. So, and you're sharpening your storytelling here. You're making, this is it. a practice in like, simplifying what it is you do and sharpening the message of like why it matters. And then if you really want to be transparent, post the updates to your blog. That's what we do at Braintrust. I think, for us, we're a decentralized network and everything we do is out in public anyway. So we just make it easy and put it on the blog. I think this is a cool idea for early stage companies to do this. Okay. So that's our investor relations masterclass in under 10 minutes. Anyway, if there's follow-up questions, I got a couple of cool follow-up questions from the last one. I don't remember what they are, so I'm not going to answer them at this point, but, send me an email, leave a comment, tweet me. Onto some news items. So, on the venture topic, there's an article in TechCrunch this week about, VCs, kind of some grumbling around like, telling founders who haven't found product market fit yet that like maybe they should close up and give the money back. To that I would say, and if that's a founder's choice to do that, like you probably shouldn't have started it to begin with, right? Like if you're still struggling to find product market fit but have a bunch of money left, like maybe you should keep experimenting, right? And if you're going to give the money back, like you shouldn't have raised it to begin with. So anyway, I would encourage you as a founder, like dig in and keep trying if you really are resolved. And the VCs, like if once they give all of their fees back on all their funds, deployed or not, then they should start asking founders for that money back too. So I haven't heard of that happening yet. Next up, Balaji Srinivasan made a famous $1 million bet, saying that Bitcoin will go to $1 million by July. This is a really interesting topic, and like let me start by saying like I followed this guy pretty closely. Like when you listen to him or read his stuff, like you will be smarter and more informed than before you did it. Like he's absolutely one of the most brilliant guys of our generation, and an incredible intellectual. I like rarely agree with what he's talking about. He builds arguments on, kind of spurious pretenses that he sort of glosses over, but he's extremely intellectually honest and cites everything he does. And he called the COVID thing, well before the Western governments were all over it. Much to his credit, this one he's basically betting that the dollar is going to hyperinflate by July, and hyperinflation is going to wipe out everyone who holds dollars, and the only way out of this is to load up on Bitcoin. Look, he makes some really good points about the dangers of inflation. The system definitely needs repairs. I think it's absolutely too alarmist, and I hope he's wrong. Even if he's right, like I think all the other fiats inflate with it, and there's a bunch of things that'll happen. I just don't see the whole world moving to Bitcoin by July. Anyway, like I think he's raising an important point that there's things in the banking and system and the fiscal monetary policy that need to be fixed. Anyway, watch, like what I just said doesn't give him any due justice. Like there's a Moment of Zen podcast, which is a new podcast. There's 3 or 4 guys that work on this. It's really interesting. It's pretty long. It's usually 90 plus minutes, but they just had him on the other day. We'll link to it. And you just watch him in his own words. Again, like it's very easy to debunk what he's saying, but like you will be smarter after listening to it. He's a really really fascinating guy. And then finally, this just happened like a couple hours ago. We saw Brian Armstrong tweet. Brian Armstrong is the founder and CEO of Coinbase. The SEC has served them with a Wells notice, which is usually the thing that happens before there's an enforcement action on a company from the Securities Exchange Commission. It's unusual that the SEC would be going after them, just like 2 or 3 years after they went public and kind of blessed their business model. My guess is that means the SEC probably won the Ripple case. We're supposed to find that out in the next couple of days. That's been an ongoing thing for 4 or 5 years now. A legal battle between the SEC and Ripple, XRP. This is like, it's kind of another sort of, scary moment in crypto. I'm not particularly worried for Braintrust. Like we've been doing this for a while, and we've had our own counsel, give us an opinion, as well as, the multiple exchanges that list the Braintrust token, Coinbase and Binance US, that, the project fails the Howey test and it's not security. We're also not like a DeFi trading platform or a financial instrument. It's a governance incentive token and a career advancement tool now with our professional network. But nonetheless, this we've had a lot of employees and contributors to the project, ask about this, and so we'll watch it closely. So anyway, that was episode number 2. Hopefully a little shorter this time. But thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next one.